We have ongoing conversations that we're having with doctors across the country regarding their practice, how they generate value for their practice, not just for today, but really into the future. Today, joining us is Dr. Todd Renn out of the Chicagoland area here in Illinois. And Doctor, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So here's the question, and you and I have talked a bit about this even before today's call, but we've talked about the practice value and what doctors can do to ensure that their practice has value. Again, not just for today, but well into the future, preparing for its eventual sale, because at some point the practice will be sold. And at one point, I'm assuming you do want to retire. So what are some things that you have done, Doc, that you believe really truly bring value both now and into the future to your practice?
I've personally done, it started with a friend giving me the E-Myth revisited way back when I first started practicing. And it really talked about, being able to work in your practice, and really came to light is that you need systems. You have to have a system for everything. And the difficulty is in managing people, but you can manage a system and get the people to manage systems. And essentially, you have to write and define everything from the patient walks into your office the very first time to they leave. And how does everything look and how is it defined? And giving those definitions and then creating standard operating procedures for your staff to follow, so that if someone does leave, there's a notebook or per se or on the computer, so that they can actually reference those standard operating procedures. And it's like, I remember a quote from that book is, the guy said, I sold my practice. And he says, why'd you sell your practice so young? He says, because I had something to sell. And his whole thing was, it was based off of those standard operating procedures. So I've spent years just developing and refining those and trying to come up with better ways to help staff to do it. And I'll tell you, it saved me several times when you're with patients and they got to do something. Well, how do you look up to do it? How is that done? And creating different systems. So, that's in a nutshell how I've approached it. And thank my friend Chris for giving me that book way long time ago, because it was very helpful. Very helpful.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we start talking about processes and systems, and we don't think about them sometimes in the chiropractic world, we rewind to when McDonald's was originally put into place. They had a product that people wanted. They were selling it. They had a great store. It was when Ray Kroc joined them and said, well, if we had systems, then we could actually multiply this and grow it even bigger than what it is. And that's what Kroc brought to the McDonald's industry, really, and really to the restaurant industry as a whole. So systems, they matter. These things matter. And that book, what was the name of the book again, just for everybody who's listening?
The original one was the E-Myth, and it was a revisited version. And since then, they have a chiropractic version that was written thereafter, authored by someone else who partnered with them. And I highly recommend reading that book. You can read it in a Sunday afternoon. And if you haven't read it, you should.
Perfect. And we'll throw that link to like an Amazon copy of that, just for everybody's reference then.
Yeah.
Cool.
Framework about how to operate a business, and I think that's something that we all miss in school.
Yeah, it is. Nobody likes to talk about healthcare as a business because we're in it for the patients, but at the end of the day, we have to have a good, solid business. And I think I've mentioned to you before, one of the calls I hate getting is when doctors call and say, hey, Mark, what are the steps that I need to do to close my practice? I have a philosophy that every practice has value. And it's what you do, such as this, Doc, in your processes and systems that help bring long-term and longevity value to that practice. So what are some other steps that you've taken to really improve the value of your practice?
Really, it was the offering of the services to make sure that, we're able to serve a wide variety of the population. For my practice, where I'm located, and developing, physical therapy protocols that can easily be done at home, so that you can make sure not only what you do, that the patient is also responsible for doing those things as well. So developing those physical therapy protocols, not just giving tear off sheets, and incorporating other services that I don't perform, like massage or acupuncture, so that we have, a wide breadth of services that the patients can take a landing here at the clinic. So it's not just a one line service thing here. We have 3 different entry points. They can come in just for massage, they can come in for acupuncture, they can come in for chiropractic. From there, we would you do inter-referrals, and we co-manage and co-treat our patients together and talk about those cases and stuff. So I think that provides value as well, not only for the patients, but for the clinic.
Some of the other things that we've talked about, you and I, are, as a part of your systems and processes, you've added some automations, right? You've done some things in that regard for your practice. Give us some examples of automations that you've put into place, or methodologies to really make things more efficient like that.
Right. So as soon as you see a technology come by and it looks good for your patients and it looks good for your practice and it looks good for your staff to kind of take away some of the duties that they do, I grab those immediately. It's like, with the EHR software, they have released something where it can auto verify insurance now. Well, instead of training my staff how to verify insurance for 10 different insurance companies and all the nuances of reading, interpreting what's online and Availity and stuff, it's like they press a button, now they get it. So that in itself is hugely valuable. Or looking for softwares that can track your patients. Not all softwares have that ability to kind of manage the patients that you want. We used to create, spreadsheets and stuff years ago, and now, someone has come up with a way of doing it, so that it's just kind of pulling the data from your EHR software and giving you a way to manage that, and look at your patients and whether they're coming in, following treatment plans, reaching out to them, online scheduling, all the things that just make less touch points for your patients. So anything that you can have, they call it friction points, as one doctor told me. His friction point is anything that patient touches. You give them an outcome assessment form, you give them this form, they give them that form. Well, the less they have to touch and the less your staff has to touch, the better it is for everybody. And so trying to consolidate that and get that into like a smooth system is really necessary, especially these days with the way the staffing has gone in the last year or so. It's been a challenge for sure. So the less you have your staff do and they can just manage things, I think the better it is. So that technology has really come a long ways in the last 5 years for sure.
Yeah, and you hit it right. We're in a tough labor market, and that doesn't seem to be relaxing much, especially as unemployment continues to fall. It's going to be harder and harder to hire. And so I appreciate that you've taken some aggressive steps right up front to utilize technology to handle some of the things that historically or traditionally are handled by staff. Any additional tidbits that you would say, man, I wish doctors knew this in regards to practice efficiencies and systems and automations before we wrap up?
Nothing comes to mind really. There's with the staffing issues these days, I guess my general recommendation is just, you're likely to have some more staff turnover than you're used to. The wages that they're requesting are a lot higher, and so you're going to have to do more with less staff, it really seems. So we're just making adjustments to get rid of the insurance contracts that are not good for the practice, focus on the ones that really do, to streamline it, and having the practitioners follow up more with their patients regardless of where it was with the staff. So and I think that's just a necessity, so that you can, someone leaves on a short-term basis, that you're able to kind of just keep rolling with it. And so we've made some decisions recently to help with that process for sure.
Awesome. This helps, and it's awesome because as we try to help our doctors in Illinois really fuel their practice and find ways to continue to bring value. We need experts. We need people who have had successes in a variety of areas, and so we can help solve a lot of these issues. So thank you, Doctor, for your time today. Really appreciate it. And for everybody else, we'll catch you next week.